the room, and we'll go to those on Zoom. And if you would jump onto video just to say hello when we get there, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm on the Watershed Council, and I'm the liaison between the Friends of Tryon Creek and the Watershed Council, but now I'm not on the Friends of Tryon Creek board anymore. At my last meeting, I turned out, but I'll give you more information. So anyways, that's who I am. Nice to see everybody. Nice to see you, Mateo. Congratulations on finishing at school.
All right, hi, I'm Danielle. I'm also on the board, and I'm happy to be here.
I didn't do a little thing like I usually do.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to remind us. I'm Jack Bianco. I'm a student liaison for the Stout College.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Hi, I'm the Watershed Council. I'm also helping manage Zoom. So everyone is on Zoom. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'll be able to see chat for people.
I will try unmuting myself so that hopefully you guys can hear me, and Glenn is now muted in turn. Okay, I think you guys should be able to hear me on Zoom now from this computer. All right, Megan and I are on opposite sides of the room, so we'll do our best to make it work. All I was saying is that for folks on Zoom, I'll be able to see your chats as they come through. And then I was letting folks in the room know that what we're seeing on the projector is like the screen share from OPRD's computer. So when you see chat bubbles, that's just because they're not being opened on here, but I will still be seeing chat. So last couple of times I had people saying, there's like 6 chats, and I had already seen them all and responded to them and all of that stuff. So yes. All right, over to Joseph. Yeah. And we can wait on that one until you get up to the top.
Oh,
yeah, totally.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone on Zoom in this room. I haven't met yet. I'm Joseph. I'm PCC. I'm a GIS student at PCC, and I've been partnering with Alexis and the Tryon Creek Watershed Council to map Oregon ash likely habitat in the watershed. And so I'll be presenting on that tonight.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Jennifer Jones, Board Secretary. I'll be taking the minutes. Happy to be here. Hi, everyone. Sharon Key, board member. I live in the area in the Watershed.
All right. And I'm only member. Great. Yeah. All right.
So how do you want to go?
On Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay. I will ask folks on Zoom to introduce themselves in the order you appear on our big screen. So if we could hear from Lynn, then Jill, then Dusty. And I will have volume come out from my computer.
Hi, good evening. I'm Lynn Barlow. I'm the district manager with West Multnomah Soil and Water Conservation District. Good to see you all.
I'm Jill Gaddis. Excuse me, I haven't spoken today. And I'm a member at large, and good to see what I can see of everyone.
I'm Dusty Day, resident in the Watershed and board member at large.
Awesome. And then let's do Mateo, then Terry, then Colleen.
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Mateo, along with Jack. I'm the Lewis and Clark student board representative. I just graduated from Lewis and Clark a couple weeks ago. Yeah, we're working on a couple of things at the campus, and unfortunately I can't be at the meeting today since I'm back home for the weekend, applying to jobs.
I think I'm next. My name is Terry Grigsby, and congratulations on graduating, and good luck with your job hunts. And I'm a board member. Unfortunately, I'm laid up. I have just a bit of a setback with my back. injury. And so I'm laying down. I'm going to be off camera most of the time because it's kind of an awkward position. But anyways, I'm really looking forward to Joseph's presentation. I'm sorry I can't be there tonight. Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Colleen Mitchell. I'm with the City of Portland Bureau of Environmental Services. I am also sorry that I can't be there. And I'm sorry for you, Terry. I hope you feel better soon.
Oh, let me try that again. Sorry, everyone. Welcome again, and we are going to pass it to Joseph, who has a GIS presentation for us this evening. Welcome. Mhm.
Awesome. And then I will start the screen share.
Okay.
We're gonna get this all going.
Yeah.
Let me not have my inbox up. Let me actually be on your presentation. All right.
All right. Can everyone hear me? Well, y'all can hear me. Can everyone on Zoom hear me okay? If I talk like this? I got a thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up, that seems pretty good. Let's go. Yeah, it's plenty. So yeah, I don't know how much everyone knows about this project, but I've been working with Alexis this term to map possible Oregon ash habitat in Tryon Creek watershed, with particular emphasis on the emerald ash borer threat to that particular species, which I'll talk more about in just a moment. Oh yeah, and this is a story map that I made with ArcGIS Online, so it's kind of a fun way to put together a presentation. So for those of you who don't know, Oregon ash is the only ash species native to the Pacific Northwest. It's often a dominant tree species in wetland and riparian ecosystems. It can tolerate a range of elevations and soil conditions, but is most commonly found in proximity to wetlands, particularly along slow-moving streams and areas with seasonally inundated soils, so kind of periodic flooding throughout the year. Its range, as you can see, if you continue scrolling down, is in the West Cascades of Oregon and Washington, out to the coast, and then down into Northern California as well. It also has pockets in the Sierra Nevada and the Central Valley. Individuals can grow 60 to 80 feet tall and live up to 250 years. It's also distinct in that it's the only native tree in Oregon with compound leaves, making it easily identifiable in natural areas. However, there are introduced trees with compound leaves, and so when you're looking at planted trees, that would maybe be misleading. So something to keep in mind if you're ever out there looking for ash. And so as a significant riparian species in the watershed and throughout the state, it's particularly threatened by the emerald ash borer, which was first detected in, I believe, June 30th, like end of June, almost a year ago, basically, June 30th, 2022, out in Forest Grove. It's been in the eastern US for about 20 years, and in that time has absolutely decimated all ash species in the region. It's native to Asia, but was probably introduced in woodpacking materials to the US by accident. It spreads really rapidly. It's really difficult to contain. USDA has tried to introduce quarantines across the country, and it's just jumped those at every junction. So it poses a huge threat, and the mortality rate is essentially 99 to 100% basically throughout. And so we're really looking at this is kind of bleak, I apologize, but we're really looking at kind of like likely the end of Oregon ash in the near future if there isn't some sort of method in place to start to protect them against this pest. And so we wanted to monitor, we wanted to inventory the ash trees in the watershed and also monitor them if they're identified so that we can track the spread and incidence of the ash borer. And this is an emerald ash borer risk map put out by Oregon Department of Forestry. As you can see, we're right in the thick of it, as is the majority of the ash range in the state. So most places there are ash, they're at risk.
Does it go over to Canada?
There are some stands in Canada, but it's not native there. They think that it was sort of introduced at some point, and it's pretty sparse, so it's not really part of the consideration. But yeah, so in the interest of gathering an inventory of Oregon ash and monitoring for inevitable ash borer infestations in the Tryon Creek watershed, the Tryon Creek Watershed Council is mobilizing trained volunteers in the fall. Many of you probably already know all this, but to gather field observations of Oregon ash and their conditions throughout the watershed. So to support these efforts, Alexis and I created a survey 123 that will collect point data and observations with health indicators of the existing ash species. You can scroll down a little bit. And so here's the habitat suitability methodology. I incorporated slope. Actually, do you mind scrolling back up really quickly? Maybe, oh yeah, okay. Yes, that's my fault. So the habitat suitability methodology, I incorporated slope. Oregon ash prefers low-lying, kind of valley bottom lands. It really doesn't like steep slopes for the most part, which I'll show you in a moment. You can scroll down some more. Hydric soils, which are formed during periods of inundation. So essentially, they're largely associated with wetlands and riparian areas, but they can also be in like a boggy kind of field, depending on the soil composition. And that, you can keep going there. I don't know why these maps aren't loading.
I'm thinking it might be my computer. Sometimes things don't load all the way up Google Chrome.
Oh,
Presentations.
okay.
So hopefully we'll get this embedded on our website.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. And in that case, then there's also a QR code that I had up there too that would take you to the survey 123 that you could browse through then. So, yeah. Yeah. What you would see here is some like buffered riparian wetland polygons. So I buffered them out to 50 meters. When I was going through and creating all of this data in the first place, I downloaded iNaturalist observations for the Western state, essentially, and then overlaid those with the DEM, and then was just looking at overlapping incidents. And I noticed that within the wetlands, there were a number of ash species that were observed, but just outside the wetlands, there was also like a high concentration. And so I wanted to pull those in. And so I buffered them to 50 meters just to capture that sort of extra kind of wetland impact. So this would be a wetland map with some extra kind of bubbles around the outside. I also incorporated soil information from the NATSCO soil geodatabase, which is a combination of a relational database and some sort of spatially explicit features. This incorporates soil water storage with a weighted average throughout the year up to 150 centimeters. And I was kind of looking at soils that would basically keep the feet wet for the ash, so to speak. So even during periods of dryness or drought, where they would still have access at some point in the water table. Because I was thinking, since they like to be in kind of boggier, more hydric soils, typically, that when they are occurring outside of the watershed or outside of those habitats, kind of what one of those soil conditions might be. And some of that bore out in the data. Keep scrolling.
Joseph, I feel so bad that these aren't loading. I'm gonna send out the link to the ARC map on chat for everybody.
Okay, good
and
idea.
See if anyone else can see the maps when they load it. So like those of you that are on Zoom, if you want to try opening it real quick, just because I feel so bad.
It would be better if everyone could see what the actual layers look like.
You want me to share?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Let me come off of. Let me get Nikki co-host. Please. Right, when you are co-host, so you should have screen share privileges now. I'm glad we're pausing because it's better to pause and finish.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
I popped the link in the chat so people on Zoom are seeing.
Great.
Are able to click out to see it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, this is better.
Yeah. Do you want us to start scroll back up a bit, or do you want to start?
We can make like a quick pass.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
There's a slope.
Yeah, there's a slope. If you scroll up, is there a? I can't remember where I put it. Oh no, it's down a little further. The survey is down further, so we'll get to that. Yeah, so here's the wetland soils that are kind of mostly in the lower part of the watershed here and on that kind of western edge. You can keep scrolling. And then, as I described, kind of a lot of squiggly, bubbly lines that are those buffered wetland areas. And if you go down a little further, here's the water storage variation. And you can't really see it, but it's essentially higher water storage lower down in the watershed, and then lower water storage higher up. Maybe you can see it better, but the resolution on the projector isn't very good. It does seem that way. It's a pretty abrupt takeoff. I think there's got to be something in the data that it's like a resolution issue, but or maybe they're just better than us, you know. This is soil texture class because the ash most commonly occur in poorly drained clays or silty clay loams. And so I wanted to kind of pull in that data set as well. And so most of this is silt loam, that purple, and then the blue is silt clay loam. And then down toward the river, you can see some silty clay and some unweathered bedrock and a little bit of gravelly clay as well. And then these are the poorly drained soils in Tryon Creek because it likes this kind of boggy, really wet soil. It can withstand more inundation period than the majority of trees that are native to our area. So it's partly why it's so important in our riparian ecosystems, is it just has a really high threshold for poor drainage, and it also prefers that. And so fortunately, as you can see, most of the watershed is poorly drained. I don't know what your backyards look like, but there might be some accumulation there in the winter. So that was just something to incorporate in the model as well. And so since we don't know the occurrence in the watershed, only 3 of the iNaturalist observations actually fell within the boundary of the watershed. I did kind of blow out, as I mentioned earlier, and kind of zoom out and taking iNaturalist data and characteristics from outside the watershed to try to draw some statistical correlations between these factors, which are a little further down. I used the extract multi-values to point geoprocessing tool. So I converted everything to rasters, and then it's essentially a tool that pulls the value of the raster cell into the attribute table of the ash observation data. And so that brought them into the same reference point, essentially, where you can compare the relationship between the attributes. If you scroll down a little further, that's the DEM that I used to overlay just to expand the region. And then those are 693 Oregon ash observation points. And if you keep on going, here are the statistical relationships that I found with the water storage. So as you can see, it skews definitely toward a higher amount of storage in the water table. The slope, if you go down a little further, definitely prefers a lower slope angle. So really anything more than 11 degrees slope, you're not going to find many ash, at least according to what I found from these observations. And really the sweet spot is kind of less than 4, essentially. And then along with soil texture, this one was a little bit trickier. Depending on the frequency of certain types of soil in the watershed or in the boundary, you're just more likely to find some of that overlap. For example, clay soils are very rare relative, like true clay soils in this area, but where those soils were, there was a lot of ash relative to their occurrence. Whereas there was more silty clay and silt loam, and the ash were also prevalent there, but it's just a little bit, I would say this one was potentially like a little bit misleading if you didn't look at the soil data as a whole. But it is true that they all were essentially clustered in those first 3 to 4 categories in the soils. Keep scrolling if you don't mind. And so then I also had a few conditions that were Boolean conditions. It was basically, is it inside or is it outside of this type of feature? So in that case, when going into the model, those were described. A Boolean condition, if you don't know, is like a 1 or a 0. It's like a binary or a true false condition. And so hydric soils, 66% of them were within the watershed, within the wetland areas. Wetlands were 63% within the observations, and poorly drained soils accounted for 19% of the observations. And so incorporating those into the model, I just weighted them accordingly, kind of in relation to one another, if that makes sense. So hydric soils and wetlands got a grade of 24% basically, and poorly drained soils got a grade of 8% as a relationship. And you can keep scrolling, please. So this is kind of the final suitability analysis. As you can see, lower down in the watershed in Clackamas County, there is a little bit more apparently highly suitable area. There's a few pockets in the western part of the watershed, and then most riparian areas are going to be pretty good, is sort of what I came up with in the end. And I think that bears out kind of from what I was reading, based on Oregon State Extension and some other like ODF publications as well. And you can, if you want to take a minute to look at this, you can, or we can keep moving.
So this would be a map that if people wanted to put boots on the ground and go look for ash trees where the yellow is would be the first place to start.
I think so, yeah. This is all kind of exploratory and speculative, but based on my findings, that's what I would recommend. Yeah.
And it's coincidental and cool. Glenn, is this what you're about to say?
No, I was gonna go ahead.
Oh, you. You know, it's like a color.
Okay, fine, yeah, well, sorry, I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna say something else, but yeah, so I just got an ash right over here.
Oh, nice. That's what I like to hear.
Small one. I naturally said it was an ash. Right, that was an ash. And I added it, I just added it to my ash. But I was gonna say, I mean, yeah, so there could be some ground treatment, right, that could be the next step. All right, let's test this as like a hypothesis that we should see more ash in this area. You should also have control shoot with other areas that say they should be low, and just see, let's start really simply.
Yeah.
Hey, do you see anything more ash over here or not? And if it agrees, then that gives some more confidence to your results.
Exactly. And I wanted to do that before coming and presenting to you, but as things happen, ran out of time. But I do think that's the next step, is just ground truthing and checking out. And then also refining the model once there's more data from the field work in the fall.
And ground truthing is what we're hoping to do with the Lewis and Clark environmental engagement students we work with last fall on site stop. We're hoping to work with them to put on a training for community members to use this survey 123 form that we can show you guys, and we would suggest that they go based on this map.
Which is a good segue, actually.
Oh, good.
Because I think that's the next.
Repeat it. I don't know if people on Zoom heard it.
Repeat what now?
What I just said for folks on Zoom.
Oh yeah. So yeah, basically, we created a survey 123 form that we're going to use to help volunteers identify Oregon ash when they go out and are looking for them to ground truth this model in the fall. And this just describes the process a little bit further, the habitat suitability. So those are the kind of weights that I gave to the different variables in the end, which I tried to pull from those statistical regressions, but all of these become a little bit arbitrary, I think, in the end. So I am curious to see how it holds up when it comes time to people getting boots on the ground. And the next one, there's a QR code if anyone wants to pull up on their phone that Alexis and I collaborated on.
And Rebecca tested for us.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. And we're going to incorporate more of your feedback too. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I appreciate it. There's, yeah, there's a browser. There should be a browser option.
Yeah, because when I was doing it, where I live,
Right, that's what Alexis was saying. Wow.
And so then I did some of the bigger ones, but because the pin drop is just at our place.
Right.
Like how, like, I couldn't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I guess you could go through multiple times, but that would be kind of cumbersome. So we're going to include a way to add a count if you happen upon like a cluster. Yeah.
And then even like this some observations, she's probably already mentioned this to you. At our place, we have so many actions. I mean, so many.
Wow.
It's like we've never had this many. It's so strange. They're everywhere.
That's awesome.
Terry was recently on Zoom. Terry, we saw your hand raised on Zoom.
Oh, this is Carrie. Did you just ask? Yeah, I went to the survey and I really like the descriptions of Oregon ash, and there's some photos, and then also asking which key identifiers are present to really help people who are using the survey to think critically about whether or not they're actually seeing an Oregon ash. And yeah, I just think it's really well done. So thank you to both of you for doing this. It's pretty awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing it with, I know that some folks at West Multnomah are also doing community outreach for folks to to upload observations of Oregon ash, and so this can hopefully be used as like a diagnostic tool along the way. And Terry, I will say that at home, I think you might have the edge on a lot of us, because I think we're all trying to use the Tryon Creek State Park Wi-Fi. And I don't know about anyone else in the room, but it was not loading on my phone just now, so.
Oh, yeah, it loaded immediately and I was able to look at the whole survey. Like I read
Oh,
through
good.
the whole thing really quickly. And I mean,
Cool.
there's photos of the trees. There's, descriptions of how the leaves are arranged. And it's just, they're really good. It's just a really well done survey. And I think it'll be very helpful. And I think, I mean, I am on the West Multnomah SWCD board as well, but I think that this will be a really valuable tool for all of the partners to use.
Yeah, and it's
I think it could
something
be
that
used
I
in
have-
other watersheds too, I
That's
mean,
exactly what I was gonna
yeah.
say, is that I have added access to it after the fact as well. And Rebecca tested it out for us, and we have some feedback from her that we'll incorporate, including adding multiple trees in one observation. So Rebecca's agreeing. that
Oh,
it's
yeah,
something-
that's a good idea. Like if you wouldn't want to necessarily have to go through the whole thing if there were several of them or something.
Right, yeah, Rebecca has dozens and dozens on her property, so that's why she was saying that. And Lynn is raising, sorry, Rebecca, Lynn is raising her hand from West Multnomah.
Hi, great work, Joseph and Alexis. This looks fantastic. I agree. And I also got it to open in my phone. What a wonderful tool. What I would, do you already know about like ODF, ODA, the state response? They are also using Survey 123 and they are also using iNaturalist, I believe. But are you going to coordinate with them when you do start to collect points?
Joseph, do you want me to answer that one for you, or okay, I might have just a bit broader context. Yeah. Yeah, Lynn, we were in touch with Dr. Christine Bull at ODF and with their GIS specialists as well during this process. And I included an invitation to, sorry, we fixed that. I included an invitation for Dr. Bull to tonight's meeting. So I believe will have the Survey 123 link. And I also mentioned the fall collaboration with Lewis and Clark. So I think as we get closer into the fall, if she hasn't already had a chance to pick up on this and test it out, that will nudge that up to her attention.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you both for your efforts. This is wonderful.
Cool. All right, Joseph, I think we loved the QR code so much, we might have interrupted you midstream. So I think you might still be muted, but I'm going to mute myself over here.
All right. Oh. Cool. Okay. Let's see. I don't think I have a lot left. If you wouldn't mind scrolling down a little further. You can also access it in the browser here. Just FYI, if you're looking at this on your computer at home or here even, you can go through the browser link, which actually might work a little better. Or yeah, it looks different, but this is essentially what you'd be looking at. So you can get your location, some contact information, and then there should be some more information about the ash and things to look out for emerald ash borer symptoms.
Is there a citing of the beetle on here as an option?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why we didn't lead with the beetle itself with the symptoms is because people are more likely to see symptoms than the beetle itself.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Or misidentify the beetle because it can look like other bugs too. Yeah. So.
You talk about shaped holes.
Yeah.
And the location info, does that describe like how to collect? Like if you're in a forest or.
Oh, the location is more so where your observation is taking place. So we can geo-reference that and then put that on a map later on. for visualizing
Like a
purposes.
user who might not be familiar with dropping a pin or something.
Yeah, it's really straightforward. You just click on the window in it, and there's a button that it should zoom to your location. Yeah.
If you have location services.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The receptions, if you just like take your phone out and try to rush through it, it might take a while.
Uh-huh.
You might get hit, so just like let it count to 30 or something.
Yeah.
And it won't be so near accuracy, but close enough for us to get boots on the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if, I wonder if taking a photo.
Oh, it's got a.
Yeah, there's a number of photo opportunities and actually requirements to take photos. So yeah, you'll get your chance for that. Yeah.
Where's all the data gonna go?
On the Google Drive for Tryon Creek Watershed.
And then do you want to talk about it auto-populating other maps?
Oh yeah, we're gonna connect it to the web map. So it should just upload periodically and as a layer on the web map. So new observations should just kind of like come in automatically. Yeah.
I had a question related to that.
Yeah.
Who has used survey 1, 2, 3 before?
Yeah.
Although only on the St. Clair campus is
Mhm.
when observations come up on survey 1, 2, 3. It
Mhm.
doesn't have specifics about whether there is no dashboard actively present in the area. It just comes up as like a little data point. Is the plan to initially kind of mark where all of the Emerald dashboard are going to be and also where they currently are as well? Or is the idea just to show where all the ash trees are first? And should someone like continue on, for example, someone from St. Clair College?
Yeah.
Like monitor that when they're in PS295?
Yeah, definitely. I think there'd be a neat way would be to enable pop-ups. So you could look at the basically underlying data from or results from the survey.
Yep.
And so you could see people's answers. I'm also going to turn off a couple fields that will anonymize the data so that it's not like, Gina found Emerald Dashboard over here. Yeah. And this is her phone number. So we don't want that. But yeah, I think doing that, or maybe updating the symbology to differentiate ash that have no symptoms versus symptomatic ash would be a really good step. I think there's a lot of ways that you could take the data that's coming out and kind of run with it for sure. Yeah.
As far as I think the common sort of knowledge across the region right now, it has not, at least as far as we know, it hasn't spread too far to forest growth. So this is really part of that early detection. Let's go into let's first find out what the species is, then we can do it, and then continue on.
Yeah.
Like you said, 99% mortality, it's not
Yeah. And it's also good to know like how many there are, if there, like, I mean, it's like there are obviously a few, but if there's only a few, maybe sort of helps you like wrap your brain around like the scale of the challenge that's kind of coming down the line. Or where to put your resources, exactly. Yeah.
Well, another interesting thing too, you mentioned, Rebecca, is that the beetle can't infest certain really young saplings. They have to be what DDH they have to be. That small. Okay. So, for instance, on your property, you may see the fungus.
Yeah.
The older, bigger trees would likely start to see
And once the beetle's here, it's never leaving, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Unless someone finds some kind of really like whiz-bang solution to the problem that really, I don't know why I said that word, but that's basically it's unlikely. There's been no success basically up to this point in 20 years of trying to mitigate it. So
It's not like they move on.
they stay, and until there's until there's no more ash. Yeah, but they're sort of opportunistic in the sense that they don't specifically target Oregon ash. Unfortunately, they do seem to have a preference for it, but as long as there's ash plantings, they'll keep coming for it. So I think
What Joseph means is that there's like planted west, ash from other parts.
Yeah, eastern ash species and Asian. So I think a lot of the rhetoric now, or the planning, as far as my understanding of it, is that we're looking at kind of replacement species. Unfortunately, they can kind of occupy that same niche in the ecosystem.
or approximated at least.
Is there a treatment or a vaccine?
There is some kind of a treatment, yeah, but I think you have to get to it early. I think it's like you said, a vaccine, where it's a preemptive strike, and I don't know how.
Yeah, it's expensive and it's every 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. If you have an ash tree at your house you love, maybe you can.
Then you can say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to do it before the MLF board has started affecting
Like
the tree,
established.
and you have to reapply it every couple of years. So the only reason why it's not 100% ash eradication in like the Midwest is because of that preventative injection, where they chose some very specific targeted ash trees to save like along roads and picnic tables and parks and things like that.
Yep. It's kind of a depressing topic once you start getting into it.
Well, it makes me feel bad for hacking away at this ash tree in my backyard for years. I'm like, it keeps coming back. You know,
We do the same thing.
They're
They're all
fast growing and
Yeah.
but
Is it putting up a lot of shoots along the base?
Yeah. It puts up shoots. Actually, I think I have a couple.
symptoms.
And I think when you hack stuff back. it's gonna shoot.
Yeah. If you're trying to kill
That
it,
back in the
it's
top third.
It's pretty small. I mean, it's like I've been fighting it for. It likes growing up, right under the fence. Like it's
all right, you can keep scrolling down if you don't mind. There's a very blurry table of all of my input data that we kind of talked about earlier, but it has a little bit more notes about the sources and citations. There's some links that you can click to go find it. Yeah, but that's less relevant to this conversation. And then if you continue to scroll, there's a number of like flow charts. You know how into flow charts you all are. I like them personally. I'm a big fan. So there's kind of a conceptual overview that also appears blurry on this projector, but it was kind of just start to finish from talking to Alexis through delivering this presentation, kind of what needed to happen. This one was just a simple workflow through devising the survey 123. And then these other ones come from ArcGIS Pro. I use the model builder. So this is just creating the slope feature. And then there's a few more a little bit further down. This one's getting the soil data out. It's a little bit messy to work with the NASCO database. So as you can see, there's a lot of steps involved, but ultimately it was pretty painless. And then this one was, can't read it now. Thank you. Oh yeah, getting the wetlands and the wetland soils resolved into the database. And then the other one finally was the suitability analysis, which incorporated all the rasters that I reclassified with their values based on the statistical relationship, and then created a weighted overlay, which was kind of that last high-low blue to yellow color ramp that you saw there. And that was the suitability analysis. So yeah, here's a little discussion. Like I said, it's an exploratory analysis, so by no means do I feel like this is 100% accurate, but I think it's a step toward identifying likely habitat where the ash could be. That's kind of the phrase that I've been using with myself, is this is where we suspect they are likely to occur. It's not exactly where they are. But it's also identifying areas that have conditions that are suitable for ash. So looking ahead, if we're looking at replacement, species that occupy a similar ecological niche and appreciate similar characteristics in soil and topography and proximity to wetlands, which a lot of riparian species around here are sort of similar in that way. I think that would be useful information as well. And yeah.
It was a while ago when we met, but want to talk about the project that ODF was working on, and I'm forgetting his name,
Sean McKenzie.
Yeah.
Sean McKenzie is doing a supervised classification using remote sensing imagery. So they're kind of, we're coming at this from different perspectives, and his is way more complicated. But they're essentially looking for ash where they are currently, and we're looking at where they could be. And so he's looking at, I think it's Landsat or Sentinel data, which is satellite imagery. And then he's using I believe it's a spectral analysis, where they train a model to identify vegetation spectral classes, or a spectral signature rather. And then that model can identify that spectral signature as it occurs throughout an image. And it's sort of like by pixels, basically, is the way that it usually looks for it.
I'm gonna just like add on, because this was totally this was at the very learning edge of my understanding of mapping. So the spectral imagery thing is they're taking 4 photos throughout the year of this swath of land, and they're managing these, or they're tracking the phenology of the plants. They're tracking when bud break starts to happen, when leaf fall starts to happen, because the different tree species will change what they look like visually at different times throughout the year. So then they'll be able to look back and say, okay, you smash together all 4 of these photos and say that this specific one that did it at about this time is Oregon ash. This one is vine maple. This one is big leaf maple.
Right.
So we focus in on Oregon ash.
Yeah. And so that like composite basically of those scenes is how they, thank you for explaining that better than I did. That composite of those scenes is how they derive the sort of individual species spectral signature based on those 4 scenes kind of throughout the year. They've done similar things, I believe, with oak when they were mapping oak in the metro area.
And so Sean was saying he might be interested in comparing overlap.
Yeah, comparing our notes basically at the end. So we'll have to touch base with him pretty soon.
Are they doing that statewide, or is it just a test?
I think it's
Real estate to test it?
I think it's metro. It's the metro area. Yeah. So I think it's concentrated in kind of our local area, but I don't know, maybe they'll expand it.
Yeah, our part of the Willamette Valley. And so what Sean was saying he might be interested in seeing is when we do ground truthing and we do find Oregon ash, that you can compare that data with what their spectral analysis predicts and use it to test whether theirs is correctly or incorrectly
predicted. Yeah, or identifying, I guess. Yeah. I don't know if I have a lot more for you here. Those are citations. Here's some acknowledgements. Thank you, Alexis, for helping me with all this. Kind of get my head around this topic. I was very peripherally aware of EAB. I feel like it came out at a time when it seemed like there were a lot of bad things happening at once, and I was just kind of like, that sucks, and then just kind of, buried my head a little bit. And so I was aware that this was a problem, but Alexis really helped me kind of quickly get up to speed on things. Also, Sean, as we just mentioned, was really helpful early on in thinking through the analysis and just thinking through other ways to do the analysis in the future. It was really interesting to kind of compare notes on that. And then I was in kind of a cohort of classmates who were also working on plant-themed projects for the end of the term. And so Ian Mayer, Valence Brennis, and Ruth Bonnet were really instrumental a few times in resolving some technical problems or pointing out some kind of flaws. For example, like in the survey 1, 2, 3, it was really nice to have some feedback early on just to see from a user perspective kind of what things were working and what wasn't before we sent a bunch of people out in the field with it. And finally, Christina Friedel, PCC, I'm really grateful for the wide range of opportunities I've had through the program in my short time. And I am thankful for the opportunity to have worked with the Watershed Council and hopefully given you something useful to go forward with. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Any questions from Zoom, or we can also go around the room? We had some discussion throughout, but in case any hands up on Zoom.
I have a question. I wonder if like any sort of drones could be helpful in right out, because some of these areas might not have trails accessing them. And I mean, I hate drones. And everything, but it's incredible what they can do and like how good the optics are now. Cover a lot of space.
I think drones would be really useful. In some instances, it might be difficult since ash are often like sub canopy too. So depending on the composition of the forest that they're in, if they're like a dominant canopy species, then I think it would be valuable. But it might just depend on the makeup of the forest that you're looking at.
And so to add on to that, right, like there's places along the Willamette River where you see those islands in a lot of the rivers. Those are entirely Oregon ash. That there it's a bit more from the drone's eye view, right? You can see the condition of the ash. You dive back to the top, potentially right here. We talked about that conversation. Here in Tryon, again, they're depending on the places, but like where we see them in the park or throughout neighborhoods, they are a bit more scattered. Yeah.
Good drone flyer. Probably like the challenge.
I have my drone license. If you ever you come back. Yeah.
Well, I have a question, but the remote sensing that you were talking about,
Sean McKenzie.
I mean, so they're doing remote sensing with multispectral imagery.
Yeah.
To do the vegetation classification, so they must be using an airplane to capture bigger swaths of it, or are they using a drone? I mean, they would use some form of aerial.
I think they're using satellite imagery actually.
Oh, okay. So they're using
I'm pretty sure.
Landsat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might be using, now that I think about it, they might be using NAPE or something like that, but I think it's.
Oh,
I think
it's Oregon.
it could be, although.
Similar concept. I mean, it's like using the multispectral, so they
Yeah.
they look at different time frames too.
Yeah.
So they can see the die-off and the phenology.
Yeah, I want to say though that they're using Landsat is from what I recall from that conversation.
That's what these types of multispectral analysis are present.
Yeah.
Is Landsat?
Yeah.
Okay.
My question though was on the you have a lot of input variables.
Yeah.
So I wonder when you had the list up, and sorry, I don't remember all of them, but it seemed like a couple of them might co-vary with one another.
Totally.
So you might, I don't know if you probably haven't gotten to this point because everything takes time. Every suggestion like takes like weeks to like work through, but I'm not suggesting you have to. But maybe there could be a next step of simplifying the number of variables so that you don't have to bake in so many ingredients, so to speak.
Yeah.
And realize, oh, you know what, these two variables totally overlap. So let's just pick one.
Yeah.
And that can help for applying it again or updating it or applying it to the watershed.
Yeah, I actually started thinking about that recently because particularly for me, the wetland soils and the wetlands themselves were an area that I was like, there's definitely some overlap happening here. Right. And so teasing those things out or just figuring out which one is more influential would probably be useful.
Yeah.
Well, and I was going to say, this is very valuable because if there is a concentration in certain wetlands where they're providing shade for stream habitat or something like that, I would think that would be where resources would want to be put for planting.
Thank you.
That's a big thing that she's working on with replacement species.
Yeah.
Looking at that to make the conversation more. So the inundation duration is so long. We're working with the same folks on. Keep us posted on what you guys come up with.
Yeah.
And they talk about the land, the clay soils, the perch water table, porosity, clay content, all that stuff. Really cool. So I think the flip side of that here in the watershed, we're a little more lucky because we have more kind of a freestone stream riparian situation here where we know we can bring in maybe some billows or some other species that would probably do okay if we don't have 2 months where large sections of our watershed are completely underwater.
Yeah.
It's lower water. Not yet. I was really excited because I've been talking with Dr. Jewel as well. She sponsored that dialogue I had with her, and she might be in touch with some other folks, and they said they're working on it. They don't have a civil code yet. So they're a lot of smart people.
Yeah.
So willows are less tolerant of inundation than.
In some cases, so at this site that I'm talking about for my day job, it's near Goose, and we do have some Pacific willow there, but it's maybe 10% of the woody vegetation. The other 90 is mature recording. And some of the trees are, huge.
There's nothing that gets that big.
There's nothing that gets that big, and so, and again, it's inundated for so long. We thought cottonwood was going to be maybe the silver bullet moon for restoration northwest, and there were some great cottonwood talks there, and we realized that the cottonwood species can't handle that long duration.
Yeah.
And what if I'm remembering right from something from Dr. Bull a while ago is that cottonwoods can maybe stand the inundation, but they can't also stand the dryness level that Oregon ash can. Like Oregon ash can be both extreme ends of the extreme. And cottonwood probably can one.
I mean, there's a reason why it's one of the things growing.
Yeah.
Right now. And unfortunately for salmon habitat, these are some of the most prime human rearing areas.
Yeah.
But again, not sure. I think this is a great step to help educate people and getting the word out and starting to collect data. So thanks a lot. It's going to take a village to deal with this issue.
Yeah.
Appreciate our work.
Yeah.
Back in the winter, we had this pretty large scale planting project along with the Friends of Tryon. And we put in 20 to 30 ash. Actually. It was going to be more, but Oregon State Parks got next. She's like, hey, let's cut that number back. But after listening to your presentation, it sounds like maybe doing that will actually prolong the emerald ash presence here by providing future resource. So I don't know, from a management perspective, is planting any ash kind of the silly thing to do at this point?
I don't know if it's like worse. I don't think it makes anything worse necessarily. Probably. I'm no expert. I've been at this for 9 weeks, but off the top of my head, I guess I would think that.
I would say yes, it's the worst because you're taking up the resources that that tree that's going to be targeted.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's more of like a waste of effort or delaying restoration of an area that before it gets bad everywhere, I guess. So.
And one of the things that Christine Gould has talked about is like there's a lot of working groups around the state and some that are looking. I think one of the efforts is in collecting genetic samples from Oregon ash throughout the basin to see if there are. We're basically, I think the gist is that they are looking for any of the Oregon ash that we have that might have a bit higher level of resistance. In the same way that like when we're planting for climate change, it's not just planting species from Northern California, but it's the same species, but just at lower down towards California because they're a bit more
adapted.
They're a bit more adapted to those drier conditions. So it might be some that's kind of within its species looking for genetic differences and traits, but I don't know about planting or not. That's off it.
Oh, too. I mean, they're like experts at cultivars and breeding characteristics into these fruit trees.
Yeah. They're collecting seed too to store them, so that
yes.
they all get wiped out.
We plant fruit trees in our backyard that are resistant to all kinds of diseases because Oregon State has developed them, right?
More questions from the council?
So I'm just noticing the time, and so I'm going to switch audio over to. Sorry, guys. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Okay, so we are going to move on.
Also, Joseph has to go
I
to an
do.
event.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
okay.
I double
good
booked
night,
myself a little bit.
Yeah.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay.
We're gonna move on to the business portion of our meeting. First up is reviewing our April and May minutes. I'm just gonna leave the floor open for a quick second if anyone has any questions about those minutes.
Did you make it to last month's meeting after all?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Mhm, but I was up Mount St. Helens, so I was just listening. Jennifer ran the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah, so I was, but only listening. I saw it, so it's okay, we're here now. Okay, so hearing no questions about the minutes, I'm gonna call for a motion to approve the April and May minutes of the Tryon Creek Watershed Council. Thank you, Stuart. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Danielle and Glenn, and I will call for a vote. We did it this time. All those who approve the April and May minutes, how about we do, can you change the screen so that we can do a thumbs up? If that's easiest, or raising your hand. Saying aye.
Thumbs up.
Sharon, are you in agreement? Okay, so then that is around the table and Zoom approval of the meeting minutes. Thank you. Glenn, would you like to give an update on?
Sure, real quick. Actually, could you share the screen?